Welcome back to another episode of State of the Wizards. I'm your host, D-Can, along with my co-host, K. Jose, and we are the voices of the unheard. K. Jose, what's going on, bro?
How you doing this evening, my brother?
I'm doing great, man. You ready to talk State of the Wizards tonight?
Oh, absolutely. We definitely got to talk state of the Wizards. Got to talk about the heartbeat of the Wizards.
Absolutely. So tonight, K. Jose, we're going to discuss a hot topic on whether Kuz is tradable. We're going to discuss Bilal's development and his importance to the rebuild. And in your opinion, will Wes live out the season and continue to be a part of this young Wizards development / rebuild? Coming up next on State of the Wizards. Before we get started, if this is your first time tuning into the channel, thank you. Follow me at Wizards Mafia and follow my main man, K. Jose, at DC Hoopla on Twitter. Also, please follow us at State of the Wizards on Instagram and State of the Wizards on Twitter. So, K. Jose, let's get started. You ready?
Absolutely. Let's get started.
All right, man. First question for you. K. Jose, we're going to start this episode with a tweet that Kuzma sent Bullets Forever. I'm going to read the post and the reply from Kuz. Before I do that, when you first saw the post, what was your initial reactions?
My initial reaction was, that was it. It was like, it's strictly business, man. Nothing personal. That's how I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that the reaction from the tweet was a little bit extreme, but it's strictly business, man.
Yeah. That's kind of how I see it too. It's strictly business. When you look at, that tweet, it really wasn't saying much. I mean,
Right.
it basically was saying in so many words, hey, Kuz playing well tonight. His trade value meter is skyrocketing. And based off of this tweet here, and as you see, Bullets Forever tweeted Kuz trade value meter is going up. Kuz responds, damn, bro, why you want to trade me?
Right.
And Bullets Forever said, honest dialogue, I don't know. You're teaching the young guys how to hoop, but the Wizards are years from being a contender. And a lot of contenders would want a player playing at your level. I mean, is that fact or is that fact?
Yeah, it is. It's fact. But I think the what triggered this tweet the most was the word trade. It's that was the word that actually triggered the responses. So Kuzma is playing very well. I give him that. But ladies and gentlemen, we are 3-14. Okay, let me repeat: we are 3-14, not 14-3. We're 3-14. We were 35-47 season before last with Kuzma. We were 35-47 last season with Kuzma. We're now 3-14 with Kuzma. He's a very good player, but let's not say that he shouldn't be considered trade bait. At this point, every player except for Bilal should be up for grabs. There's nothing wrong with that. It's strictly business. It's nothing personal.
And I totally agree with that. My thing is Kuz is absolutely tradable because number one, he holds the most value on the team. Kuz is gonna net you a solid return, in my opinion. I think we talked about this on the last episode of State of the Wizards, where we discussed with the Locked On Wizards guys. Shout out to them. And what was the consensus that if we moved him, you could move him for some assets in return, right? So
Right.
so the idea would be to um unload, a 28, 29-year-old Kyle Kuzma. I believe he's 28, right? He'll be
Yeah, he is.
he's 28. He'll be 29 next year. Um,
Hmm.
so the idea is to, unload a guy who is a champion. He has a ring. He's in the prime of his career. He can help sure, you need that veteran leadership in the locker room here, but I think where we're going and where he is, it's two totally different directions. It's two totally different timelines. And
Right.
Kuz loves the city, and I believe that, and I believe that his family loves it here. I believe they love DC, and I love it that he loves it. Like I don't have a problem with Kyle Kuzma at all. I'm not speaking from a standpoint of somebody who's saying, I'm tired of Kuz. I want Kuz out of here. No, I'm talking about it from a standpoint of, you know what, Kuzma's valuable. And so if we decide to move on past Kyle Kuzma, what can a valuable piece like Kyle Kuzma net my team in return to make my team get better, in the rebuild process? Because as we discussed before, this is a destruction process. Kyle Kuzma is a part of that. Kyle Kuzma is not a part of the rebuild. So
Right.
so where I'm at is what can Kyle Kuzma net us? And I believe that he's absolutely tradable because of the different timelines and because of the fact that he probably would be more valuable to a win now team than a team who is tanking. Let's just call it what it is.
Correct. Correct. It's what I said with the Locked On Wizards guys. I will contact Houston, find out can Kyle Kuzma net you a Cam Whitmore who's currently not being utilized. He doesn't fit the timeline. And again, it's strictly business. It's nothing personal. We're not saying this because we hate Kyle Kuzma. It's not. It's also not. Oh well, we don't want to see good basketball. We do want to see good basketball, but at the end of the day, I look at this situation. It's like somebody's gambling. You're up, and you just constantly rolling that dice. What happens after a while? You start to lose.
Mhm.
So at some point, you got to know when to cash out. So when it comes down to Kuzma, his stock is going high. We've been through this before with Bradley Beal. When we held on him too long, we refused to move him, and then his stock went down, and we had to kind of settle for what we could get for him because of the no trade clause. Kuz doesn't have that. So if his
Mhm.
stock is at the highest, why in the world are we saying, well, no, let's wait
Correct.
until next trade deadline? What happens if he gets injured at that time?
Correct.
Then what?
You're taking a
Then
risk.
you're taking a risk. Then you're that gambler who got $50,000 and you gamble all your money away because you thought, hey, I can continue to keep making this money go higher and higher. It's a risk.
Right. So essentially what, Bullets Forever said was right. As he improves and as he's having another career year for himself here in a Wizards uniform, all he's doing is raising his own value on a bad team. The team's value is not going to increase. Kuzma's production is not going to increase the value of the Wizards. Kuz's production is only going to value Kuz's value. It's only going to
Exactly.
increase Kuz's value. It's not going to increase the Wizards' value. Nobody
Right.
values the Wizards outside of Washington, D.C., right? So how we need to look at this is Kyle Kuzma is at 23 and a half points per game. All right. He
Mm-hmm.
leads the team. He's our number one this season. A lot of people thought it would be Jordan Poole. It's actually Kyle Kuzma. Kyle Kuzma is probably a third or fourth option on a contending team. This goes back to what we used to say
Agreed.
about Bradley Beal. When Bradley Beal was the guy here, he put up those kind of numbers. He got large contracts on a bad team. And we said if he was ever go to a contender, he would be what? Who would he be, K Jose?
He would pretty much be a third. He's a third option. Right now, he's with Phoenix. He's the Ray Allen for Phoenix.
That's what I'm saying. So it's the same thing for Kyle Kuzma. All they did was when we moved Bill, Kuzma just fell right into to Bradley Bill's old spot. That's all this is.
Absolutely.
So we don't want to repeat that
And let me
cycle.
ask you this. Well, let me ask you this real quick. So Kuzma, when he played for the Lakers, the first 3 seasons of the Lakers, they were in a rebuild. Then LeBron James and Anthony Davis comes over. And then Kuzma's production dropped. He went down to like 12 points those last 2 years he was there. What option was Kuzma when he played for the Lakers?
He was option three. He may have been option four.
He was actually, I think he was option four, because wasn't he coming off the
Yeah,
bench?
he was a six man.
He was a six man.
Yeah,
So
playing behind
here,
LeBron. Hmm.
he, so the last two seasons since he's been in Washington, he's been the third option. Right now, he's the number one option because he has the total green light. And I like his leadership. I like the fact that he, did it. He's giving back to his community. I saw he did that up there in Michigan,
Yeah,
where he gave back to women who are coming out of prison. So the things he does off the court, his mannerism, all of that is on point. So I don't have any ill will towards him. But this is strictly business, ladies and gentlemen. We got to get out of this love affair. But we don't want to move this. But you can't sit there and say, well, we need to hold on to Kyle Kuzma. Oh, but yeah, we can go ahead and get rid of Denny. We can go ahead and get rid of Kisper.
right,
Let's not fall in love with those guys. But you want to fall in love with Kuzma. Come on. If we're winning, I understand. But we're not winning.
right. And that's the thing. Like Kyle Kuzma is just putting up numbers on the bad team. We've been here before. We've seen this movie before. So,
Right.
that's the bottom line. Look, I get it. Some fans out there, they don't like the idea of moving a guy that contributes for a team. It's that
Right.
hey, someone at least values us, someone at least wants to put up numbers, someone at least wants to contribute here. We should be thankful. Well, we are. We are absolutely thankful. We're thankful for him to get us the pieces we need.
Pretty much.
That's
Pretty much.
I mean, look, they said, look, this the holiday season. This is the season of giving. This is the season of thanks. What are you thankful for? I'm thankful for Kyle Kuzma raising his value and continuing to, play up to his level of play and continue to raise his value so he can get us pieces that we need in return. That's what I'm thankful for during
So
this
let me ask you
holiday
this
season.
question before we go on to another topic. This is still pertaining to Kuz.
Yeah,
If so from my understanding, and I got to check that, but from my understanding, Kuzma is not available to be traded until January 15th. Okay,
yeah.
cool. So if there's a deal out there where Kuzma can net you a first round pick, should we entertain it? Or should we sit and say, well, let's see if they offer us a second round pick? How would you feel about a team offering us young assets as well a first round pick for Kyle Kuzma? Should the Wizards take that deal?
That's a no-brainer. I mean,
Okay.
I'm hopping right on that. I'm hopping right on that ASAP because I mean, what other choice do we have? Like, we need to gain and garner as many young assets as we can because that's what we're going to need to continue to improve, right? So Kyle Kuzma's production at 23 points per game, while it looks good, what looks better is having three, four more additional young assets who can contribute at a high level. And so we're not saying that whoever we trade Kuzma for, we can't get talent in return. That's not what we're saying. Because all talent is some talent. Everyone in the NBA is talented. Just look at, like I said, look at the Detroit Pistons. Use the Detroit Pistons for example. They are a young team. They have talent, and you would expect them to be better, but they're 2-15. That's because they're playing other teams who are just as talented, if not more talented, right? So garnering picks is one thing, but garnering picks that gives you talent back and gives you pieces that can contribute, that's very important to the rebuild. We don't want to be the Pistons. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that we want to move Kuz and get pieces back that can contribute just as much as he can, if not more. Right. So that's kind of how I look at it. We don't want to be the Pistons, but we want to be a team that can get as many picks and be more talented than them, you know? And Kyle Kuzma isn't the guy that changes everything for the Wizards. And that's unfortunate, but it's the truth. Kyle Kuzma is just a guy who averages 23 points per game for the Wizards. That's it.
Agreed. I can't agree anymore. I mean, that you're right. 1,000%. Like I said, strictly business, nothing personal.
All right, let's move on, and I'll make these brief, because we got two more questions before the end of this first episode. K Jose, real quick, how important is Bilal's development to the rebuild?
His development is very important. We want to see what type of player he's going to be. Is he going to be a 3 and D guy? Is he going to be a two-way player? The only way he's going to be, we can find that out. You have to, as you would say, unleash him. And that's what we're looking forward to. When we drafted him, I looked at him as a foundational piece because I knew Dawkins was actually scouting him when he was playing, when he was still with OKC. And his stock started to kind of go up high before the draft. So when you look at Bilal, it's so many different things he can be. Some people say, one person said they see Larry Hughes in him. Somebody said that they see T-Mac in him. Some people say Giannis Light. I mean, he's really pretty much like a glob of clay that you just got to put together. And right now, what he's doing, he's freestyling out there. I mean, he's leading the team at 3-point percentage. That was questionable when he came into the league, is if he could shoot. Well, now he's showing you he can shoot. His defense is on point. Nobody can really shoot over him. He's 6'8" for one. So he has all the tools to be successful, but we need to see more of him, and we need to see him go out there and play. Like, I looked at the game last night and I was looking at a sore, and that guy was just running around on the court like a damn cheetah. But you see that Detroit with Monty Williams is allowing the sore to play through his mistakes. That's what we want for Bilal. He's the important piece of the rebuild. And right now, I feel he's just getting spot minutes at this moment.
Yeah, and I'll make my answer quick. I just think that Bilal's development is so critical because the faster he proves that he is the next man up, the faster we can start this rebuild. That's where I'm at. We're seeing it, we're seeing his growth in front of our eyes in a short 16 games. You know, you saw my tweet that I put out, what we've seen him do already. I saw your tweet on the State of the Wizards poll asking folks, who does Bilal's game favor? I'm actually surprised people said Danny Granger before the injury, but um, you know, the idea though is that we're putting it out there that, hey, the Wizards, hopefully they see it like we do. This kid's upside is there. He has it. Like he has it. Like, if we treat it as such, then we can continue to develop him in a way where, we trust him with the ball in his hands at the end of games. We're running plays through him. We're putting him in spots, to hit the big shot in the clutch. We're going through him in the clutch, those types of things, because he's already proven that he can kind of, impact the game in different ways on the defensive end. He's getting blocks, getting steals, breakaway dunks. Like, I mean, man, just imagine if, you know, this kid's off the leash. You know what I mean? And all we can hope for is that the Wizards see it that way.
Exactly.
All right, last question. We got about 2 minutes left. Will Wes live out the season and continue to be part of this young Wizards development and rebuild? What you got?
I would hope the answer is no. But I don't know what this front office is thinking. When you look at what Wes has done since he's been the head coach, he has a record of 73 wins and 108 losses. That's 40%. So he wasn't able to get the job done with a quote unquote win now team. And we already know that it's not about winning this season, and it's supposed to be about development. But you know me, that's one of the concerns that I have with Wes is, can he develop young talent? You look at what Orlando is doing. Orlando has a lot of young talent out there, and Jamal Mosley was able to groom that young talent. So one of the things you said was you didn't want Bilal's development to keep Wes Unseld Jr. for a long period of time. So explain to our listeners of why you said that.
Well, I said what?
You said you didn't want Bilal's development be the reason why Wes Unseld stays here longer.
Yeah, well, because one slight improvement of the team next season, we picked up his fourth year option. So my whole thing is if we start, hitting that demolition button now and we start the rebuild at the trade deadline this year, and we don't let go of West by mid-season, then Dawkins and Winger allow West to fulfill this season's right obligation. And then going into next season, it's about Bilal at that point. So we all just a slight bit of improvement can get West an extension. I hope people really understand that. And so, I'm kind of hoping that this front office looks at this as, once we push the rebuild, we're pushing it across the board. That would include West, right? And allow the new guy to come in and be a part of Bilal's development. And we can go from there. But let's pick this up in the second part of State of the Wizards. Be sure to check out the second part. All right. This wraps up part one of State of the Wizards, and continue to stay tuned. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to part two of State of the Wizards. I am your host, K Jose, with my main man, Decan. So, Decan, I got a question for you, bro.
Mm-hmm.
So, I know you saw the article last week, and it was pertaining to the Wizards brand, or should I say more so Monumental Sports. They want to have positive content. So, we already know within the last several years, that's all we've heard was positive content. And a lot of questions that we as fans have, they were never answered by NBC Sports, well, never asked by NBC Sports, and they're not being asked by Monumental Sports. So, how do you feel about that? Knowing that the idea is we want positive content instead of constructive criticism.
Um, you mean as far as like the network goes, or just in
Right, as far as the network.
Monumental's protecting Monumental, and that's understandable, right? So my thing is it's like anything. I mean, we protect State of the Wizards. This is our brand. I understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, fans want they want the truth. They want honesty. They want transparency. One thing that I did appreciate Ted and what they were doing over there at Monumental a couple years ago was when they made it more transparent for the fan to see what was going on in practice, in the locker room. There was a point in time, and I don't know if they do this anymore, but there was a point in time where the fan had almost like a firsthand experience of what goes on behind the scenes. And so maybe they still have that, but my thing is that's what fans want to see. They want to see the honesty in the network. They want to see the
Mm-hmm.
honesty in the coverage. And
Right,
so if my thing is if you're going to continue to gloss over or sugarcoat bad games or performances, what happens is eventually the fan starts tuning out what's being said. It's more so about what's being said and not how it's being said, because I think the problem is that they're too focused on how people are saying it when it's more about what people are saying, right? So if
right,
so it's like for example, you and I talk about this all the time offline. Constructive criticism only makes you better, right? So you and I, we had the fortunate opportunity to work in locations, you and I together, we worked in locations where we had a script, right? We read off that script, but we also knew what was behind that script. It was about constructive criticism, number one. Number two, improvement and overall general customer service, right? So if the experience isn't good, then the person that is dealing with you is going to be turned off because you're not being honest. And then they know that you're just reading off a script at the end of the
Right.
day. After a while, you're going to say to yourself, why do I want to keep doing this if all I'm doing is just reading off of a script and I can't be myself?
Right.
So it's not about me. It's about the viewer and it's about the fan. It's about that customer. It's about the people who are watching you. That's who it's about. And I think that Monumental, I'm not saying that they're getting lost in that, but I am kind of saying that they need to think about that, at least when you're considering the experience, the fans' experience.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I agree with that. I mean, you think about it with anything in life, you got reviews, whether it's a store you're going to, fast food place, whatever the case may be. Before you go there, my wife is big on that. She reads the reviews, and the reviews can be fickle. Some can probably have positive reviews. Some going to have negative reviews. The ones that have negative reviews, you pay attention to those a little bit more to see how does the business respond to that? How do they answer to that constructive criticism? So when
Exactly.
when you're seeing bad basketball and we're critiquing it on Twitter because that's what we do anyway, there's nothing wrong with us having that conversation. But there are some people who take it personal and say, well, no, you shouldn't say that. Well, why not? I got to let you know that your product is bad. You
Mm.
don't want me to tell you that your product is bad? You want to still continue to put out a bad product?
Right. You still
Like,
want to eat, you still want to go to a restaurant that has bad reviews and serves bad food and at least, you're finding out for yourself. You see why people are saying that the food is bad, right? And then, you try it out for yourself and you're saying to yourself, okay, well, let me give a review because I've had my experience with it. And you want them to change for the better. You don't want to
right,
keep going. You don't want to go back to somebody else and tell them go to the same location you went to because you want them to have a bad experience. You want them to have a good experience.
exactly. So I
So,
agree with that. So let me ask you this, man. Because you asked me. So do you think? Because now I'm gonna ask you about Wes. Do you think Wes Unseld Jr. tenure as a coach is gonna go beyond the 2 years that's left on it? Do you think he's the coach for the rebuild?
no. Just that simple. No, I don't. You know, I mean, if it was up to me, Wes wouldn't be here right now. But I don't get paid the big bucks. I'm not Will Dawkins. I'm not Michael Winger. But let me say this. Wes has a chance to redeem himself, but in a way where he doesn't have to go out bad. You know, he has the opportunity to really put his stamp on the development of the young players before he goes. I don't think he gets extended after next season. That's just my hunch. That's just my opinion. I think that there's a lot of coaches out there, good coaches that we could still interview. We could still look at. Mike Budenholzer is one that I've heard kind of go name get thrown around. Um, you know, I don't think Ted wants to break the bank for a coach either. I think when you're in a rebuild, you kind of want a coach who can understand where we are, in the rebuild process, where those expectations are kind of tempered a little bit, and we're not jumping off the cliff for a head coach to come in here and change everything overnight. So um, to answer your question, no, I don't believe Wes will last. And in fact, I don't think he even lives out the duration of his contract. I think we probably either let him go at the if not this season, if we don't let him go this season, we let him go by mid next season at least. I think so.
Right. I agree. I think when it comes down to a coach that takes over the position, then you're looking at a up and coming coach, somebody who's an assistant coach, somewhere, let's say OKC.
Right.
Um, you
Exactly.
look at maybe, like a guy, maybe Sam Cassell, you finally can have the opportunity to get him. You get yourself a coach here that can actually put their stamp on the team. And the win-loss expectations have been tempered. Winning is not really a concern. What's really a concern is development. And currently, right now, we're not seeing development from Wes Unseld Jr. That was what he said when he got the job, that he was looking forward to developing Denny. He was looking forward to developing Rui. Well, Rui got traded. Denny is, kind of doing everything on his own. You got to give him credit for his work ethic, but we really haven't seen Wes Unseld figure out how he wants to use Denny.
Hmm.
And we know when it comes down to Bilal, he's out there freestyling. And do we really even have to say the whole Johnny Davis situation? He didn't develop him at all. And that was his pick. He
Right.
wanted him because of the fact he knew how to draw up a play, but he can't seem to get any minutes at all. Shaman is taking his minutes. There are times when Anthony Gill takes his minutes.
Hmm.
So you have to ask yourself, we're definitely going to be picking somewhere in the top three in this next year's draft. Do we really want Wes Unseld Jr. putting his hands on said player, whoever we draft, because he hasn't developed anybody? So do we want him to do that? And I'm going to say the answer is no. But again, I'm not the general manager. That's not my call. But if it was, I'll drive Wes to the airport.
I'm right there with you. I think that we both gonna have Wes, you gonna be the chauffeur. I'm gonna be the person that gets his luggage, gets his bags. I'm gonna make sure he gets to the plane safe. Like you can be the pilot. You can jump from the limo to the plane if you want. And then I won't even be mad if you had a parachute on
Oh, we're gonna make sure he get there, huh?
the
Right, I get it. I
So
get
we
it.
gonna we gonna make sure, like, I'll become the person that's checking him in at the hotel at his new destination.
Right,
It's just
right,
gonna be me and you. It's gonna be our faces everywhere he go to make sure he get somewhere else safely. But look,
right.
let me put it this way, man. Um, I'm not one of these guys on Wizards Twitter that is constantly gonna bash him, but I'm just to kind of tie it into your question about monumental sports and their negligence or reluctance to talk about the constant Wes Unseld Jr. mishaps.
Yeah,
Um, it needs to be said though that he's not doing a good job. All right. It needs to be said because you know this rebuild is very, very important. And fans need to understand that it's not just about the talent, it's about the coaching too. And it's not just about the coaching, it's about the talent. And if you're only willing to highlight certain things and not include, criticisms of said player, criticisms of said coach, then it almost makes it look like, we're doing the right thing. It almost looks like this is all by design and we're on par, with the coach, with the team. Like, no, this is not on par. This is far from par. This is not on par. The only reason why we're on par with a lot of what people think is because we're supposed to lose games. But it's how we lose games. You and I talk about this all the time offline, right? It's how we lose games. If you lose games where you're constantly making the same mistakes towards the end of the game, that's coaching. All right. That means, Jordan Poole didn't finish the game. Denny didn't finish the game. Gafford didn't finish the game. But you, as a coach, said, I did everything that I felt was right to do at that time to win us the game. That's what you thought? You thought that was the right thing to do to win us the game. So then if we're officially in a rebuild, is this the same guy that you want to continue to make those same decisions at the end of the game with the young players? Is this the same guy that you want? Is this on par with what you want? If the answer is no, then you have to talk about that now. You have to bring that up now and say that he's not doing a good job closing these games as a coach. Yes, we're supposed to lose the game, but we're not supposed to lose the game like that. You give me?
Yeah,
So
I get you.
so if you point those things out, okay, let's talk about who the new coach is going to be for this rebuild. Let's talk about who that potential coach can be and how he would finish these games because Wes ain't it. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think it's a conversation that needs to be had, and there's nothing wrong with that. To recognize that, hey, it's just not working. Um, we have had that conversation, and finally, what Wes wanted to work, it actually worked last night against the Pistons. He Jordan Poole didn't play much. Denny didn't close the game out. So he ran plays through Kyle Kuzma. Now Kyle Kuzma always get up and play against the Detroit Pistons,
Oh
but
yeah.
it was the Detroit Pistons. Let's keep it honest. It was the Detroit Pistons.
He has big
We're gonna
games in
we're,
Detroit.
we're getting ready to play the Orlando Magic, which they're like second in the league in defense. If you decide to make that same error you made, which we know you are anyway, because you've been doing it the last 3 years, but you're doing it even more this season, and we're not a win now team. But if you think that okay, I'm going to go with a small lineup to beat the Orlando Magic, then you're an oxymoron. That's how I look at it. You're not trying to win the games. You just out there just doing whatever. Yesterday I said he was trying to win the game because it was the Detroit Pistons. But we can't play them for the rest of the season. At some point you got to understand like, okay, if I am going to lose this basketball game, I'm going to explore every option that I have. So if Gafford is doing his job defensively, if Palau is doing his job defensively, you keep those guys in the game. And if you lose, you just lose. But you don't say, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take him out the game and I'm going to put Shaman in there and I'm going to put Anthony Gill, knowing those guys are going to possibly lose you the game. You just don't do that. So,
But what has he
one
been
last
doing?
thing.
But what has he been doing though?
He's been doing the same thing over and over again.
Right.
But here, I would have to say this, my dude, a broke clock is right more than he is. I'm just saying, a broke clock is right more than he is. And they're only right twice a day. I just told you what his record is since he's been our coach.
Yeah.
So he's been more wrong than a broke clock.
Right. And admittedly so. He's saying, I'm acknowledging what's going on in these losses. I think what really irks me the most about his post games is when he's saying, we just need to do better with closing out the game. It's like, no, you need to do better with closing out the game. Like, stop stop using we. Stop using we and start using you. Start using I.
For
You know what I
real.
mean? Like, I think that's what irks me the most, man.
It does. I mean, I can understand it. Like, don't be speaking French, bro. It's you. You're the cook. You the reason why the food's coming out terrible. Don't sit there and talk about the ingredients because you ain't putting none in there.
Right. Exactly.
So now, I know we talked about this with the locked on guys, and I mean, we have to at some point start talking about the draft because let's be for real, we're going to be participating in that. Um, what what would you like to see this new front office? How would you like to see this new front office address the upcoming draft different than what the previous regime used to do?
Well, I would like for us to be more aggressive this upcoming draft. I think that, you you look at this draft, it's not as deep, but I'm hearing that it's deep. I think that as the year goes on, you're going to start seeing more and more players start to stand out, especially from a college perspective. We're just kind of scouting the young athletes, some international athletes who's kind of been on the radar already. but you're gonna have those athletes that who are college. They play college. They're more than likely more pro ready players that is going to stand out much later on. And I think that regardless of that fact, though, Will Dawkins has a eye for talent, and whoever he wants, I'm going to trust right now because Bilal is looking. I mean, he's looking every bit the part. And
Hmm.
people forget, man, SGA is a guy who was drafted by the Clippers, and that's a winger guy, and then sent over to OKC with Dawkins. And then Dawkins built, kind of developed and helped develop SGA. And now SGA he's balling out of control, man. Like, I mean, Winger and Dawkins deserve the credit for SGA. They
Agree.
won't get the credit because they're gone and SGA is doing this thing now. So, their hindsight, people won't even include them on his development, but they're the eyes that found that talent. And so Bilal was the next man up in my opinion. We're gonna take our time with him, but just to answer your question, I think that when it comes down to this draft, um, we're gonna have to kind of wait and see. Sar is great, don't get me wrong. I think as time goes on, you'll start to see his draft stock rise even more. Because he's only gonna get bigger as time goes along. Um, and this organization is gonna be keyed in on their guy. So even though we're saying Sar, even though our belief is that they should go big man, maybe on the next two drafts they should go big man, right? And then because you got Bilal already at the 2/3, then you fill out your 4 and your 5, and then maybe your guard. But I think Ed said that he'd rather go guard big man, that kind of fill out and build around the guard spot. So that'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that materializes from Will Dawkins' standpoint, because once again, look no further than SGA as being kind of that two guard that they saw something in, and maybe there's a two guard out there that they really like.
Right. So I would like to see this. I would like to see Will Dawkins address it same way Brandon Scott said, which is get another first round pick. Um, they could, if you get another first round pick, then you can use that first round pick depending on where it is to get your point guard. There's a few guys in this draft that's that's going to be available. I think it's that one kid, Nikola Topic. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. I think it's
Yeah, something.
yeah, Topic or Topic is,
Okay.
but I know he's like a 6'6" point guard. I've been looking at his highlights. He looks solid. I think he might get better as time goes on. Now, let me say something about Alexander Sarr. So what's interesting about him is he actually has a brother that's in the league right now.
Mm.
Guess what team he plays for?
Who?
OKC.
Mm.
His older brother plays for OKC. I believe that's where he's at. But I think he must be either on the G League for them or I don't think he's getting that much playing time. But my
He's not
point
on the
is
pro. He's
Will
not on the pro level.
he's on the pro level, but he's not getting any playing time.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I didn't know that he had a brother that's in the league already.
Okay.
But I believe he's with OKC. But it's that connection, that OKC connection when you think about Will Dawkins. So we do know that Will Dawkins has an eye of talent for what you said. Jalen Williams was that guy that they got. Look at what he's doing for them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Josh Giddey, well, I don't know if I should even say his name, but the stuff he's going on, that he got going on right now.
Mm.
But Josh Giddey is another one. Um, you got Chet. I think they traded for Lou Dort, if I'm correct. I think he was drafted by somebody else and they traded for his rights. They
Mm-hmm.
got another Jalen Williams over there, which they probably might give up on him at some point. But the point is that Will Dawkins, the OKC Thunder, got multiple draft picks, so they had multiple chances at drafting because
He
they know
built
that
that
there's a
team. He built that
Right.
team.
He contributed to building that
Yeah, he
team.
contributed to building that team. Yep. So
So now
Presti is the mastermind behind that.
he's the master. So now he's actually doing it from a general manager standpoint. So
Mhm.
whatever pushback he was getting from OKC, which it probably wasn't much, he'll be able to get it done here because he has full autonomy. So I'm expecting him to address the Wizards the same way he used to do with OKC. It's just he has more power.
I mean, I trust a Presti disciple more than I trust the damn Ernie Grunfeld disciple.
You ain't lying about that, bro. I
Or
mean,
pupil, whatever you want to call
pupil,
it.
whatever you want to call it, protege, whatever you want to
Yeah,
call it,
prodigy, protege, whatever. That's who
whatever.
I trust. I trust Presti's protege more than I trust Ernie Grunfeld's protege.
Right. So I think what we have to look at it from a fan standpoint is the rebuild is going to take some time. We're going to be looking for some foundational pieces. We already got one in Bilal, but we're going to have to get multiple ones. You know, and I'm going to say this when it comes down to like Cooper Flag. I've seen his highlights. I want to see what he does when he plays for Duke, but I've seen his highlights and he looks the part. I know you have your reservations about him, but I'm gonna say it this way because I mentioned it on the last episode of State of the Wizards, but I didn't go deep into detail. But you kind of knew where I was going, and I talked about it on offline.
The white
And
savior.
you, well, yeah, it's for the NBA. It's important for him to actually be that white savior that they're looking for, an American white savior. Because if you think about it, the last time they had a player who was a white American, it was Larry Bird.
Hmm.
And the league has been looking for that for what, over 30 years? And they haven't been able to find one.
Yeah.
So the closest they've been able to get to it is Luka Doncic, Dirk Nowitzki, but these guys are foreign white players. So I think they want a domestic white player. And Cooper Flag, I don't know if he understands the kind of pressure he has, but he will find out in 2025 when he gets drafted by said team. Because if he turns out to be in the same class with a Christian Laettner or the Adam Morrisons or the Keith Van Horns of the world, man, we're gonna be having a totally different conversation.
Yeah. And kind of just to um piggyback off of that, you had mentioned like they have failed at that in the past with guys like Keith Van Horn. Um, of course, Dirk was kind of that guy that came in and they labeled the next Larry Bird, but Dirk wasn't from here.
Right.
So I totally get the dynamic in that regard that you're making the argument, for. Here's where I kind of challenge that. Um, I don't know if the league cares about us in that fashion though. I don't know
Yeah.
if I don't know. I'm not convinced yet that Adam Silver is that confident in the Wizards in doing the right thing for, say, Cooper Flag, if that is the case. Because and I didn't really get a chance to elaborate this on the previous episode when you made this argument, but I'm looking at it that, we were one ping pong ball away from Wemby. All right. If that's any indication that the NBA and the league doesn't trust us, I don't know what other indication you need. We were one ping pong ball away from Zion. We were one ping pong ball away from Wemby. That's not a mistake.
Yeah.
That's by design. And so Cooper Flag, in my opinion, he may be that kind of what's the word I'm looking for? He could be like that. All right, just give him the number one pick kind of pick for us. He could be because I feel like that's what Kwame Brown was. And I damn sure felt like that's what John Wall was because of the whole Gilbert Arenas situation. And Abe Poland was on his deathbed. Or Abe Poland passed, right? At
Yeah,
that
he was
about it.
yeah, he was deceased. Yeah.
Right. So we were selling the team. Ted took over. The NBA definitely was like, it's time for the Wizards to get that number one pick. Maybe Cooper Flag is that guy, but I'm not confident yet in saying that that's what I believe that the league or how the league feels about us right now.
Well, let me piggyback off what you said as far as the Wizards. So let's go to the 2001 draft. We got the number one pick. David Stern was the commissioner at the time.
Michael Jordan just took over.
There you go. That's why we got the number one pick because of Mike. So let's go to when we got John Wall. David Stern was still the he was still the commissioner at the time. Abe Pollin had passed away, but Abe Pollin and David Stern had a friendship outside of basketball, and it was I think Abe Pollin was more of a like a real estate tycoon or something. I think David Stern might have been a lawyer or something like that because I remember reading an article when David Stern said, "I remember you," or Abe Pollin said, "I remember you when you were young." Something on the level of that. My point is that there was some form of a connection. Now, the reason when we fast forward to now, we haven't got a number one pick since then. And the reason being for that is, well, Adam Silver is now the commissioner and Ted is the owner. I don't know what kind of relationship those two guys have, like if it's a mutual friendship or anything like that. So if Adam Silver does have that mindset, well, no, I don't want a number one pick to go to Washington. Well, you got to look at it. Maybe Adam Silver has not liked how the way Ted Leonsis has been an owner of the Wizards during his tenure. So it's like until you show me that you're going to appreciate having a number one pick, then I'll give you one. You
Mm-hmm.
got to remember what happened with John Wall. He was a well-respected player in the NBA, and people saw how the way that happened. So people probably look at it like, well, Wizards don't really value their guys as much,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you have a number one pick. John Wall was a generational talent, whether people want to believe it or not. You look at his highlights; he was a generational talent, but we didn't really appreciate him when he was here.
Right. And that's a great point that you just raised because Adam Silver was the commissioner. He was in that seat. He saw how we treated John Wall. He saw how we handled that situation. And I'm very, very I'm how I feel is I feel like the NBA pays attention to stuff like that. How does NBA teams take care of their number ones?
Right.
Like I think that's one of the best kept secrets in the NBA from a commissioner's a standpoint is how well does a team take care of a top pick? Because you know, after Cleveland and that whole LeBron debacle, how many number ones did they get? You get what I
Yeah.
mean? You get what I mean? Like
They
like
had they had three, right?
yeah, they
They had
had
three after
three.
LeBron left.
Right. They had three after LeBron left. And it's all by design, man. And that's the thing. Like they didn't feel like Cleveland did bad by LeBron. LeBron made that decision to leave Cleveland, but they did everything right by LeBron. When we talk about, sales and how Cleveland became a boom city, from a merchandise standpoint and how they treated the LeBron situation, if it was up to Adam Silver, he would do it all over again. I believe
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Bennett was touted to be some type of next type of LeBron. You remember that?
Yo, yeah, I remember that.
And they hyped him up, you know. Obviously he was a bust,
Yeah.
but I think was it Silver or Stern at the time? It might have been Stern still who
Yeah,
gave him
Stern was
the
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
Stern was still the commissioner, but you get my point. The point is like, the Spurs, they look how they took care of Tim Duncan, right? And so Greg Popovich is there. Look at how they took care of some of their other picks. Wemby's there. They're not going to they're not just going to burn the Spurs because they see the Wizards are one ping pong ball away. They're not going to
Right.
burn the Spurs for the Wizards, man. It's just not going to happen because they know how we treated John Wall. Like I think that's important. You just made a valuable point that I think a lot of people are not factoring in, man.
Well, not only just John Wall, we still don't know the real reason why Russell Westbrook left after that one season.
Mm.
Russell Westbrook is a nine-time All-Star, former MVP. He was here. He even tried to convince Bradley Beal to leave. Why? We still don't know what led Russell Westbrook to leave Washington, but he did leave.
Mhm.
And then you got to factor in Spencer Dinwiddie comes in. That whole situation didn't go the way it was supposed to go.
Another debacle.
Another debacle. I was very, very critical of KCP, you know, but that
Him and Trez,
situation didn't.
him and
That
Trez
situation didn't
fight.
go well. I mean, so it's the trend that we have of doing stuff like that. So to your point, yeah, why would the league give us the number one pick when we constantly kept having debacles? When we was telling the fans and we was telling the league that, oh, well, we're changing the culture now, but we were still doing the same shit over and over again. So for the Wizards, this is the pressure that Winger and Dawkins have. They have to change the culture and get it to a situation that if you want to get a Cooper flag, you won't be just one ping pong ball away to get a Cooper flag. You actually get that player. But in order for that to happen is you got to convince the league that what happened in the past is not happening anymore.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen. We gonna get the number one pick this year. We gonna
Yeah.
get the number one. We gonna get it this year, and it's not going to be, a foundational type. It ain't going to be a foundational player or a foundational piece because that guy isn't coming out until next year or the season after or the season after. And this is the perfect time for the NBA to give the Wizards the number one pick. We were one ping pong ball short of Wemby last season. This is go ahead and give them the first round. Go ahead and give them a number one overall pick type of season. That's what this is. This reminds me of 2000, 2001 when
Mm-hmm.
we were 19. What were we, 19 and 63 or some shit like that?
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, 19 and 63. They said go ahead and give him the number one pick. Michael Jordan comes in, Kwame Brown gets drafted. The rest is history. They was like, go ahead and give him the number one pick, you know? So, it's unfortunate because I really hope something comes out of this draft. I really do. I really hope like this kid is somewhere that we just haven't seen yet.
And it might be that way. It could possibly be that way. And one last thing too, man. Another thing that we haven't factored in is DC hasn't had the All-Star game in 22 years. We've seen
Mm,
other cities get it. So that's another factor, another dynamic that's not even being discussed. The
mm,
league doesn't even want to put they don't even want to put the All-Star game in it. We went to the game recently. I mean, well, we didn't go to the game, but we was down there at Capital One. You
mm-hmm,
see what has happened within the last 22 years. They can
mm.
host the game,
Yeah.
but the NBA is not giving it to us.
Mm,
So I think the All Star game is going to be in what Vegas, and they don't even have a basketball team yet.
yeah.
So I'm just saying,
I
man. I
mean, it's
mean,
all about private investors and the NBA right now is turning global. So the Wizards don't have that they don't have that appeal right now. And even if we got Wemby, I think the NBA realized like it's just going Washington's a struggle. We're struggling in ticket sales. We're struggling in media sales. I mean, media from a media perspective, ratings aren't where they want it to be. So the market right now is just not good. Like here in Washington, like yes, Wizards Twitter's a buzz, but that's because you know you got people on there arguing about stupid shit all day long.
yeah.
Like you got the protectors, you got the detractors, you got the naysayers, you got I'm positive about what's going on because I'm right about every damn thing else. Like like
Yeah.
you got all types of different people on Wizards Twitter, but that's the only thing that's popping. Like the team is not popping. We need to really think about what's gonna attract um players here. And what comes with that obviously is winning because winning cures all. That's what they say, winning cures all. So but we got about a minute and some seconds left.
All right. Well, that will conclude this episode of State of the Wizards. So make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. DCAM, before we end, do you have any final thoughts? Or you've already made it?
Yeah, I think I've already made my final thoughts. I think just, I want to just thank everyone out there that's constantly supporting the channel, constantly supporting State of the Wizards, constantly supporting Wiz Takes, DC Hoopla. You guys are everything. Thank you for continuing to just be our foundational players. You guys are our foundational players. So that's my final thoughts of the night. Just thank you, thank you, thank you. Continue to support the channel, and we're gonna have the merch come back soon with some. We're gonna come back soon with some new merch.
All right. Well, that will definitely conclude this episode. You guys have a good one. We'll see you on the next one.
Peace.